Hello everyone. Good evening. My name is Vrijraj, and as you know, like I'm Google developer expert for Firebase and web technology. And today I'm going to talk about how we can use database in our REST APIs. Like yesterday, we have talked about Express.js. Express.js is a web framework for Node.js. With the help of Express, you can create simple REST APIs, or you can use complex methods. You can use it. And yesterday we also created a REST APIs where user can create, apply four CRUD operations. So I'll share my entire screen and will show you demo like how we have used these things in yesterday, and then we will connect these REST APIs with the database. Like we actually performing our operations like CRUD operations in the database. So we will use Cloud Firestore. So I will share my screen and yeah. Okay, so yesterday we have talked about like how we can create a simple web applications, Node.js application with the help of npm init command. And with the help of npm init command, there will be a package.json file. And here we have a configuration file like name, version, description, and then we what will be the main file if I'll run Node.js application. So this is the main file, server.js file. And similarly, you can define the author, license, and here you can define the dependency. So like yesterday, we have used Express.js because we have to create a REST APIs with the help of Express. So I have just added Express.js. And then we have also used body parser for collecting the data from the APIs. Uh, and similarly, we have used NodeMon for it will automatically restart your server. And this is a code architecture. Like first we have added the Express module, and then we have also added the body parser module, and then we have created applications, and then we have loaded the like body parser as a middleware, and then we have APIs. Like first APIs is get all user. So here we have a get as a request. So we have used app.get, and then there will be a path, and then here we have a request and response, and we are sending response with JSON file with a data. Let's say success is equal to true, and data is equal to all user data. And similarly, we have created a REST APIs for getting single user data whose ID is XYZ. So here we have a get request, and this is a path, and here we have a ID which will be dynamic. So here you can use colon symbol for defining a dynamic ID. And then we can send a response like response.json, and then we can pass the object data. Let's say success is equal to true, and we can pass the data. And you can collect this ID with the help of request.params.id. And similarly, we have created a post request where we can add the data into the database. So we have a post request, and this is a path, and then here we have a request and response. And you can collect the data from the browser end, like when we have a request which is coming from the client side, the browser end. So you can get the data from request from body, and then we have a data, and you can pass the response like response.json, and then you can do it. Similarly, there is another request, put request. We use put request for updating our data in our database. So here we have a path like API slash user slash ID, means which user I wanted to update the data, which ID. So here we have a colon ID, and then you can get the updated data with the help of request.body. And then you can pass like request.json, and then you can use this thing. And similarly, we have a app. You can create a delete request where you can create a APIs like where you can delete the data of XYZ user. So you can do that with the help of delete request. And then you can have a path, let's say API slash user slash let's say colon ID. So this will consider as a dynamic ID. You can collect the dynamic ID with the help of request.params.id. And here we have a simple request like if I just go to the base URL, then we can say hello from server GDG, and then we have a app.listen. Here we can apply the port number, and then we can write it. Okay, so now today I'm going to talk about like how we can use the database, because I'm just checking these APIs on the Postman. So we have a Postman, and I can go to the workspace. So I already have a workspace, and then we have a section collections. Let's say get all users. So here we can call the APIs, and then we are getting the data. So I need to run the server. So I'll just run the server npm start, and then server is working on port number 3000, and then we can call the APIs, and then we are getting this data. Similarly, we can call the single user API. So here we have data. You can also call the APIs for adding a data. You can also call the APIs for updating a data. Similarly, for deleting a data. So we have five APIs, means the four CRUD operations, and now we will connect these things with the help of database. So now like you can use any database, like if you have a knowledge of MySQL database, or if you are working on MongoDB or any other database. So now today I'm going to talk about like how we can use Cloud Firestore, which is a NoSQL database, which is a free and you can use in your web applications. So here we have a website. You just need to go to the website console.firebase.google.com, and Firebase is a backend as a service which is defined by the Google team. And with the help of Firebase, you can create your backend logic. Like you don't need to worry about the infrastructure. Firebase is providing a lot of services. Like you can use Firebase as a database. You can use Firebase as authentications. You can use Firebase for sending a push notifications. There are a lot of things there Firebase is providing. So now I'll create a project because I want to connect these REST APIs with my Firebase project. So I'll click on add project. So here we can create a project. Let's say I'll create a project, let's say backend week API. Okay. So this is my project, and then I click on the continue button, and then here you can select the analytics. We use analytics for the tracking the user. So I'm not using analytics part, so I'll just click on the disable button. And then we'll click on create project. So yeah, project is creating. Till that time you need to wait for a second, and then we will move forward with the database part. Okay, so we have created a project, and this is my project dashboard. Here we have a project dashboard, and you can use Firebase for, let's say, if you are working on Android platform, you can also use Firebase, or if you are working on iOS, you can use, or if you are working on web developer platform, so you can also use Firebase similarly for game development platform. So what I'll do here, I can go to the like project setting. Here we have a project setting, and then like there is like your application sections in the project setting. There is a general tab, and just you need to scroll down, and then here we have your applications. So there is no application in your project, so you can select any platform and then start working on it. So what I'll do here, I'll click on the web part, and then here we can register our web applications. So let's say I'll register my web application name is backend web APIs, and then click on register app. And then you can also click on go to the console, or you can, yeah, you can go to the console. Okay, so first thing is done, like we have created a project on Firebase, and then we just move to the setting part, and then we have registered our web applications, which is name is backend web API. And then here we have a configuration file. Now the next step is we will like config the database part. So here we have a section, like if you can go to the build section, and then we have a Firestore database. So here we have a Firestore database, which is a NoSQL database. So we can here in the NoSQL database we can store the data in terms of collections, and inside collections we can have a multiple documents, and each documents can have a multiple different type of fields. So what I'll do here, I will click on create database, and this is a pop-up, and here it will ask like you can use this database for the production mode, means the real time, or you can use this database as for the testing mode, because right now we are working on as a developer, means the testing mode. So I'll select testing mode. Okay, and then you can click on the next button, and then next type is you can select the locations like Google Cloud. This entire Firebase is behind the picture, there is a Google Cloud platform, and then you can select the reasons, like from which reason you can host your database. So let's say I'm using by default reason, and you can enable, that's it. So your database is going to be created in that particular region, and you just need to wait for a few seconds, and then it will be started. Okay, so here we have a database. So this is a simple layout. This is a NoSQL database. Like here we have a collection. So here you can create a collections. So let's say I wanted to create a collections name as users. So user is my collections name. Inside user we can have a multiple documents. So let's say this is a document ID, the user one, and then inside document we can add a field. Let's say I'm adding a field name is, let's say, user A, or here we can mention my name. Let's say Vrijraj. And you can also mention the email ID. So you can mention, let's say, test@gmail.com. And then you can click on the save button. And then here we have a collections. Inside collections, we have a single document. And in this document, we have a two field. So inside a single collections, you can have a multiple documents. So let's say I'm creating another collection document. Here we have a field name, and then here you can match the value. Let's say DDG. Here you can mention the email ID. So let's say here we have an email section, and then here you mention, let's say, ddgjalandhar@gmail.com, and then click on save button. So this is a structure. Like we have a collections. Inside collections, we can have a multiple documents, and each document can have a multiple fields. So here we have a fields. Okay, so this is a UI part. Now we will use the queries here, because we have a JavaScript query. We will use these queries with the help. We will perform CRUD operations with the help of these queries. So what I'll do here, the next step is we want to connect this Firebase with our web applications, the backend logic. So what are the steps? So now you need to go to the setting again, project setting part, and then just scroll down, and then here we have a SDK setup configurations. Okay, so now you need to install Firebase. So like you need to select the npm, because we are working on node, and because here we have a npm, and now you need to install npm install Firebase. So as of now, in the recently, like Firebase has released its SDK version 9, and 9 version is completely different as compared to the previous version. So today I'm going to talk about version 8, like how we can use Firebase SDK version 8. With the help of this SDK version 8, you can perform the like cloud Firestore operations, like CRUD operations, like adding data, read the data, delete the data, or update the data. Okay, so what I'll do here, we need to use this dependency Firebase. So what I'll do here, we have a package.json file. Here we have a package.json file. So here we can add a dependency. Here, let's add a dependency name is Firebase, and then we can define the version. So my version name is 8. Okay, so if you install by default, like directly in your VS Code editor, so it will be, the version will be 9, and the 9 will be syntax will be different. So as of now, I am using version 8. So I will just type Firebase and the version 8. So I need to install this dependency. What I'll do here, we can create a new terminal and just type npm install. Okay, so this is the next step. Like you need to install the npm dependency for the Firebase, and specifically I'm using Firebase version 8. Okay, so we have installed Firebase as a dependency. Now you can go to the server part, and here in the top we can add a Firebase. So here we have a code, and now we can add a dependency as a Firebase. So we can have a prompts, and then we can write Firebase is equal to, we can use required, and inside required we can pass the Firebase, and that's it. So now we have added a Firebase. Now the next step is we need to copy the configuration file. So this is a configuration file. So I'll just copy the configuration file. I will paste it after applications. So here we have a Firebase configuration file. Okay. And the next step is you need to initialize the web applications. So here we have a web applications. So here you need to write Firebase here dot initialize app, and that's it. So so as of now, like we have completed this step, like we have created a project, and then we have registered our web applications, and then we have configured our database, and then we just installed Firebase dependency module, and then we have added this dependency. We have just added this configuration file, and then we have initialized this Firebase. Okay, so now I wanted to use Cloud Firestore with the help of queries. So what I'll do here, I'll just share the GitHub URL where I have created resources for you. So here we have Firestore queries. So I'll just copy and I will share with you and will explain. Okay, so here we are using Cloud Firestore. So as I mentioned, this is a NoSQL database. So we can store our data in terms of collections. Like here we have a collections name is user. Inside user we can have a multiple documents, and each document can have a multiple fields on documents. So now if I want to create a data into the database part, so here we have to run this query. So first query is like first we are using Firebase, so that's why we have written Firebase. Inside Firebase, we are using Cloud Firestore, so that's why we have written Firestore. And inside Firestore, on which collections we are working on it. So here we have a collections, and then we can pass the name of our collections. Let's say my name of a collections is user. And for adding a data into the collections, we can use add method. Okay, so we will implement these things. So first we will write a logic for adding a data. So here we have a logic for post APIs. So here we'll write a logic for Firebase. So first we are using Firebase, so we have written Firebase. Inside Firebase we are using Firestore, so we have written Firestore. Okay, inside Firestore we have a collection, so here we have a collections as a method, and here you can pass the collections. Let's say my collections name is user. Okay, so inside this collections, I wanted to add document. So here we can use add as a method, which is a predefined method inside Firebase, Cloud Firestore. Like if you want to add some data into the Cloud Firestore, you need to use add method. And you can pass this data. It's a JavaScript object and that's it. So this entire logic will work as a JavaScript promises. You can handle with the help of the end block and the catch block. So if the promise is resolved, you can use the end block, and then here you will get the documents. Like if I edit this document inside this collections, so after like adding this particular complete after completing this entire process, I will get that particular document, and here we have a document. If there are any issues or maybe technical issues or the failure, or if the promise is rejected, so we can have a catch block, and then we can use the logic for error part. So here we are sending a response. So what I'll do here, I'll just write here like response dot JSON, and then success is equal to true. User data added, and you can print the document ID. So here we have a doc, which is a doc, and then we can print the document ID. So this ID, document ID, will be auto generated by the Firebase itself. Okay, or if there are any technical issues while adding a data into the database part, so here we can write success is equal to false, and then here you can write error is equal to, you can print that error E. Okay, so here we passing this E, and that's it. So this is a simple logic for adding a data into the database part. Like we are collecting this data from the APIs, and then we have written the logic like Firebase. Inside Firebase we are using Firestore, and inside Firestore on which collections we are working on it. So I'm working on it, let's say user collections. For adding a data into the in that particular collections, we need to use add method, and inside add method you can pass the JavaScript object. So here we have a JavaScript object, we just pass that particular things, and this will work as a JavaScript promises, so we can handle with the help of then block and the catch block. So here we have a then section, and then here we are passing the response like response.json file, success is equal to true, user data is added, and then we have a document, we can print that particular ID of that particular document. And here we have a catch sections like if there is any issues or promises is rejected, so you can do that. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll just go to the like here we have a dashboard. I'll just go to the uh, project dashboard, and then we'll go to the Cloud Firestore, and then we have already a collections, so you can use that particular collections, or you can directly download that particular collections. I'll click on delete collections. Here you need to pass the collections name, and then you can delete the collections. Okay, so as of now, we don't have any collections. I'm just written this logic. So what I'll do, I'll just go to the like Postman, and then we can call the API. So here we have a API for add user, and then you can go to the body and then select the JSON. Here we have a JSON, and I wanted to add this data. Let's say I wanted to add as a user name is Vrijraj Singh. Okay, so I will call this APIs. I'll call this APIs. The request goes to the database, and then here we have a response user data edit, and then here we have a document. So if you can reload the page, or maybe you can change the navigations, and then here we have a collections. Inside collections, we have a document which is a random ID defined by the Firebase itself, and then here we have a field name is equal to Vrijraj. Okay, so here let's say I will add another collections. So I'll just passing this data name is equal to Vrijraj Singh 2, and then we'll call this APIs once again, and then here we have a response. So we have another document, and inside this document we have this data. Okay, so we have created a simple REST APIs where we can perform add operations. Okay, so now the next APIs is like we will use the next API is for collecting all user data. Like we have a user as a collections, inside user as a collections we have a lot of list of documents. I wanted to read all the list of documents inside the Firestore. So here I'll just go to the documentations, and then here we have a docs. Okay, so I'll just go to the read all documents. So here we are using Firebase. Inside Firebase, we are using Firestore. Firestore on which collections? Here we have a collections. For reading a data from all the collections, for all single collections, you need to use get method. And inside get method, it will work as a JavaScript promises. I will explain this thing. So here we have a logic like collecting all the data. So here I will write a logic. So I'll write Firebase dot Firestore because we are using Firestore as a database. Inside Firestore, we are working on which collections. Here we have a collections name is user. Okay, the next step is I wanted to read the data from this collection, so we have to use get method. Okay, for adding the data into database, we have to use add method. For reading a data from the collections, we have to use get method. And this will work as a JavaScript promises, so we can handle with the help of then block. So here we have a then block, and this JavaScript promises will give me the list, these list of documents. Okay, so these are the list of documents. Here I will get the blocks as a list of documents. Okay, if there are any issues, so we can handle with the help of catch block. Okay, now we have a list of documents. So here we can apply, let's say we can apply for each, because I want each document one by one. So here we have a for each method. Okay, so now what I'll do, or you can use not for each, or you can use like, let's say here we'll write let uh, users is equal to, you can write like your docs dot map. Map is a higher order function, so you can use in JavaScript. And then we have a doc, and here we can pass this output like doc dot data, because we want, like we have a single document, like we are performing map operations on list of document, and then we are collecting one by one document, and I have a like this document, and I'm passing this document inside array, this one. So what I'll do here, we can send a response. So here we have a response, here we can write this response here. Okay, so here we can pass this user as a data, and that's it. So I will write a logic for the error itself, like if you are if we are getting an issue, so we can write like false, and then here we can write error is equal to e, and that's it. This is a simple logic. Or if you want to make this logic more simple, then you can use like what you can do here. You can create a user as a blank array, and then you can perform for each operations. So let's say I'm performing for each operations, like we have a list of document, so we can use for each, and then here we will get one by one document, and then you can write like here we have uh, like user as a array, and then inside this array I will pass doc dot data. Okay, so this is a simple like easy to understand, but this is a very like performant solutions. But you can use like for each or map, it's totally up to you. And then we can call this users. So what I'll do, I will save, and then we will go to the postman, and then we'll call the APIs get all user data. So we will call this APIs, and here we have a response. So here we have a response, this is okay. Now you can also like from this response, we are not getting this like document ID. So we have a this document ID, but we are not getting this particular doc ID. So what I'll do here, this is a again this is a JavaScript object. So there is a in JavaScript we have a concept of temp, like three dots spread operators. Like we have a one object, and we can merge another object. We have another object like where we have a field doc ID is equal to doc dot ID. Okay, this is the concept of spread operator. Like we have a three dots in JavaScript, and this is a one object. And again, I'm merging with another object. So here we have an object having a field or the property doc ID is equal to doc.id, and that's it. I will save, and then I will go to the postman and then click on send request, and then here we are getting this data. Okay. So now I will create another APIs. Another APIs is for collecting a single user data. Let's say I wanted to get the user data whose ID is XYZ. So you can use this query like Firebase, Firestore, collections, on which collections you wanted to read the data, and then you can add a documents. Like I wanted to read the data from specific document. So here you can pass the doc ID. So what I'll do here, I will go to the another part. Let's say we have a next APIs is for collecting a user data whose ID is XYZ. So here we will write a logic. So first we are using Firebase. Inside Firebase we are using Firestore, and inside Firestore we are working on collections. On which collections we are working on? So here we have a collections, and then we will write document like on which document you wanted to read the data. So here which document ID we will pass from the URL. So here I'm passing this document ID. Okay, and then for reading a data, so here we need to use the get method. That's it. This is a simple logic, and again this will work as a JavaScript promises, so you can handle with the help of the unblock, and here you will get the that particular document, and then you can use the catch block. Like here we have a catch block, and then you can print the error. Okay, so now what I do here, I will pass this one here, success is equal to true, and you can pass the data. So here we have a data log.data. Data is a predefined method which in about 5 days. Like you have a document and you want the data from that particular document, so you have to use doc.data. And similarly, you can pass a doc ID. So here we have a doc ID, or you don't need to pass a doc ID. It's totally up to you. Okay, and then here you can write like success is equal to false, and then you can print the error. Let's say E, and here you can write error. Okay, so we have created a simple APIs for collecting a user data whose ID is XYZ. So I'll just go to the this one postman. So let's say I wanted to read the data. I'll go to the Firebase. I wanted to read the data from this collections. So this is a document ID. So I will just copy the document ID, and I'll go to the postman, and then we'll go to the another APIs like get single user data. Here in the URL we can pass that particular document ID, and then we will on send request. And then here we have a data like success is equal to true, and then here we have a data. Okay, so now this APIs is also done. The next part is like we can update the data. So like for updating the data, you have to use update method. Put request. So here we have a put request, and I'll just go to the documentation first, and then we'll explain all the things. So for like for updating a collect document data, so we need a doc ID like for which document you wanted to update the data, and then we need a the updated data like which data you wanted to update. Then you can write a logic like Firebase. Inside Firebase, we are using collect Firestore. Inside Firestore, we are working on which collections, and then we can write documents. Here we have a doc ID, and then you can use update method. Inside update method, you can pass the updated data, and that's it. This will work as a JavaScript promises, so you can handle it. So what I'll do here, I will write the logic same with Firebase. I'll write Firebase. Inside Firebase, we are working on Firestore, and then we are working on collections. So here we have a collections name is users, and inside collections I wanted to work on wanted to update the document whose document ID. So here we can pass document ID which is coming from the URL. So here we have a request.params.id, and then for updating a document we have to use update method. So here we have a update method. Okay, inside update of a method you can pass this update data object, and this will work as a JavaScript promises. So you can handle with the help of the end block. Here we will get the updated documents, or you can pass this logic here, and then you can handle with the help of catch block, like if the promise is rejected. So here we have a catch block, and then you can use it here. Okay. So now what I'll do here, I'll just cut this logic, I will paste it here, and here we can write user data updated, and that's it. You can no need to write this one, and that's it. And similarly, if there are any issues, so you can write like catch block, and success is equal to false, and then you can print the error. So here we have a E, and then you can print the error, and that's it. So the logic is done for updating your data. So let's say I wanted to update the data. So I'll go to the Firebase. I wanted to update the data. Let's say we have a field, Vrijraj, name is equal to Vrijraj Singh 2. So I wanted to update with GDG Jalandhar. So we have a document ID. See here we have a document ID. I'll just go to the Postman, and then we can go to the next APIs for updating user data. And here we can pass the updated data. So let's say my updated data is GDG Jalandhar, and then we can in the URL we can pass the document ID. So let's say my document ID is this one. Okay. Now I will call the API. So we'll call the API. So here we will call the API, and user data is updated, and that's it. So you don't need to go to the Firebase again. You can call again APIs for collecting all user data. So here we can call the APIs, and this data is updated. Or you can check out in the Firebase like dashboard. Like here we have a Firebase console, and then you can check out like Vrijraj Singh 2 is replaced by GD. Okay. Now the next part is deleting document. So same thing, like we need a document ID, which document you wanted to delete. So here we have a Firebase, Firestore, collections, document, which document you wanted to delete. And then here you can pass a document ID, and then you need to use delete method. That's it. So we will write those logic here. So here I will write Firebase. Here we have a Firebase, and then inside Firebase we are using collections. Sorry, Firestore. On which collections we are working on? So here we have a collections name. So my collections name is users. Inside collections, I wanted to delete the data from which document. So here you can write request dot params dot id. So here we have a document ID, and then like you can use delete method. That's it. And this delete method will work as a JavaScript promises. So you can handle with the help of the end blocks. Here we have a then, and then you can write catch block, like if the promise is reject, so you can handle with the help of then and catch block. So here we have a response. I will just share the response, success is equal to true, and then we have a data is equal to blank array, and that's it. Success is equal to false, and then here we can write error is equal to e. That's it. So I will save. I will just go to the postman, and then we can go to the delete. Okay, so I wanted to delete the data, let's say this document, like Vrijraj Singh. So here we have a document ID. So in the, I'll just go to the delete request APIs, and in the URL, I'll just update the ID, doc ID. And then we'll click on the send request, and this send request is done. And then we can call the APIs once again. Let's say get all user data. So here we have single user. So this is how we can connect our database. Like you can use any database. So today I have show you about like how we can connect Cloud Firestore, how we can apply CRUD operations with the help of the REST APIs, and you can use anything. Like it's totally up to you. You can use MySQL database, you can use MongoDB. It's totally up to you. You just need to go follow the documentations. So also, like once you created these APIs, you can also deploy these APIs on like any node service provider. Let's say you can Google it. Like there are a lot of companies who are survey like where you can deploy your backend logic. Like first one is you can use cloud platform. Like you can use Google Cloud, maybe Azure, like AWS. It's totally up to you. Or you can use the another web services provider. Let's say you can use DigitalOcean's, Heroku, any other thing. It's totally up to you. Like Here I will show you how we can deploy our website on Heroku backend logic. So here I'll just go to the Heroku. Heroku is a free, so I'll just go to the Heroku website, and then here we have a Heroku, and then we will click on login button. So I will not use this account. I will just going to use this one. Okay. So here we have a Heroku dashboard. I'll just click on the login button, and then we'll just go to the main dashboard. Okay. Okay, the next one part is, let's say I wanted to deploy this like web applications. I'll click on create app, and then here we can create applications. Let's say I wanted to create backend week app APIs, backend week API, and then you can select the region. It's totally up to you, and then click on create applications, and that's it. Now the next part is for deploying our web APIs. First, you need to go to the GitHub, and then you need to create APIs for like repository. So what I'll do here, I will click on new repository. Here you can define the repository name. So let's say my repository name is backend week API, and then we can define this APIs as a private. It's totally up to you. And then you can click on the create repository, and that's it. Your repository is created. And I'll go to the terminal, and then here we will you push these code into my GitHub repository. So here I'll just type git init for initializing the GitHub repository, and then you can write git add dot. So I'm sorry, I'm not using git add dot. I just need to remove the logic. Okay. Okay, so I need to push my entire code into the GitHub repository. So here we have a node module. Node module is a lot of files. This is unnecessary things. So which I don't want to push into GitHub repository. So here you can create a file dot git ignore. Okay, so here we have a git ignore, and then you can pass the file name, folder name, modules, which will be ignored. Okay, for the safety purpose, you can write this way also. Here we have a file name, the directory. Like if I push these code into the GitHub repository, this will be ignored. Okay, so I will initialize the repository again, git init, and then here we can write git add dot. Okay, git add dot, and then here you can write like git commit minus m. It's a simple step for initializing the repository and pushing the code into that particular repository. So here I'm following this commands. Here we have a origin, and then we have a push request, and that's it. Okay, so my code is pushed inside that particular repository. I'll just reload, and then here we have a code. Okay, the next step is I wanted to deploy this GitHub applications on the Heroku. So first thing, like you need to go to the server, and then here we have defined hard coded port number, but each services is providing a like dynamic port number. So what I'll do here, we can write like env process dot env dot port, and that's it. Like if like right now I'm using the hard coded port number, but if I deploy this website on Heroku server, so here we need to use this command like process.env dot port number, which will be dynamically assigned by Heroku. Okay, so I will save, I will just updated the repository. So here I will post this code again. So here we write git add dot git commit minus m, and then here we can write like process env updated and git push. So now new code is updated on GitHub repository. So here you just need to wait for a few seconds and then your code is updated and that's it. So now you can go to the Heroku section. Here we have a Heroku section. You can connect your like backend GitHub GitHub repository with the help of the Heroku. So I'll click on GitHub, and then here we can select the Vrijraj as a username, and then you can select the repository name. So let's say my repository name is backend week. So here we can write backend week API. I will search. Okay, so this API, this repository is found, and then we'll click on the connect button. And this API, this repository is connected. So what I want to do, I'll just go to the scroll down, and then we have a section for manually deploy. So what I do here, I will click on deploy button branch. That's it. So your APIs is going to be deployed on Heroku server. So you can check out the status. Like here we have a status. Okay, build success. It will generate a URL which will be defined by the Heroku itself. So here we have a URL, or you can copy this URL, or you can go to the top, and then here we have a section for open app. So once you click on the open app, and here you will get the data. You can call the APIs. Wait for a few seconds, and then you will get the URL. Or maybe what you can do, you just copy. It will take a time. You till that time. Any questions? Any doubt? Confusion? Okay, so, just one thing. Like first, you need to add like here it will go to the first process. So what I do here, I will replace this one. Like first, we will write process dot this one, and here we can write the port number 3000, because we are deploying this services on Heroku. So like first, it will check the environment port number from Heroku itself, and if we found, so it will work on that particular port no services. Otherwise, it will work on that particular port services. So here you can write again, like you can pass this one just for the testing purpose, and then save, and then you can again git add dot git commit minus m file. Here you can write let's say port, update it, and then you can write push, and then we have update our code repo, and then we'll go to the Heroku dashboard once again, and then here we'll go to the overview part or maybe deployment part, and then scroll down and then click on deploy branch, and again this is going to deploy once again. Okay, deployment is done. You just need to reload the page and maybe you can check the logs. Yeah, so here we are working and you can call these APIs from, let's say, API slash users and then users, sorry, users, and yeah, it's working and we are getting this data. So you can test it from this here. Okay, so yeah, that's all from my end. Like this is how we can create a backend business logic with the help of Node.js. Yeah, here we can use like we have used Express.js, we have used Firebase as a database, and then we have deployed these APIs as well as we have created a documentations with the help of Postman. You can check out the documentations. Like you can go to the backend V collections, and then here you can go to the view documentation section, and then you can click on view documentations or just share the URL. Here we have a shareable, not this one. I'll just click on view documentations and click on publish. Yeah, so this is a URL you can get. You can share this URL and that's it. So now it's time for the questions. Yeah. No, no, there is no specific reason. Like I'm using some extensions in like VS Code editor. That's why we have a strike. Okay. And actually, this word is actually this is deprecated in like some of the repositories, so that's why we are getting this one. But there is no specific reason. Any other questions? I'm open for the questions.